Brightline is the first privately funded passenger rail system in this country in over 100 years. And we're seeking to reinvent travel by taking cars off the road and improving mobility, because more and more of our cities are urbanized than ever before. 86% of the population today is urbanized. People are looking for better ways to get around. And if you just drove from downtown Miami to Coral Gables like I just did, you're looking for any other possible way. Could be flying cars, could be anything, but a train is a good start. Brightline has a little bit of an identity crisis. We started a number of years ago as All Aboard Florida, transitioned to Brightline, which is the name of the company that we have today. We signed a trademark and licensing agreement with Richard Branson and the Virgin companies, and are transitioning to the Virgin brand over the course of 2020. So by this time next year, we'll be Virgin Trains USA. We currently operate between Miami and West Palm Beach, which is a 70-mile track. We're expanding to Orlando by 2022, and our first project outside of the state of Florida is almost underway. By this time next year, we'll be under construction between Las Vegas and Southern California. So we see this as a huge opportunity, not just in the state of Florida, but across the country, to connect city pairs that are too short to fly and too far to drive. But South Florida is a unique market. And I think for anybody in the real estate game here in South Florida, you would recognize it's a unique market as well. Let me just show you this video, kind of sums up our history.
Our story begins in 1885 when American industrialist Henry Flagler, already well known for establishing Standard Oil alongside John D. Rockefeller, set his sights south and moved to Florida to pursue interests in real estate development. He would quickly become the driving force behind the growth and development of what is now the nation's third largest and most visited state. Fast forward to 2007, when all of Flagler's businesses, now collectively known as Florida East Coast Industries, FECI, were purchased by Fortress Investment Group. Given the growing congestion on Florida's major highways, especially I-95, it didn't take long for the team to recognize the opportunity to leverage existing rail infrastructure to connect Florida's cities with passenger rail. In 2018, after 3 years of construction, we opened Brightline, the nation's first privately funded high-speed passenger rail system. Our first route travels between Miami and West Palm Beach with a stop in Fort Lauderdale. Passenger rail, a transportation modality largely neglected for the last century, was suddenly revitalized in America. Contemporary cultural trends have made this new travel option all the more compelling. Increased demand for productivity while mobile, decreased demand for single vehicle ownership, the emergence of ride-sharing to get people to and from train stations, and the general trend towards safer, more eco-friendly and experiential travel. By the end of 2018, we were carrying 100,000 passengers a month and had already become a critical component of the transportation network in South Florida. Our next step is expanding our Florida system to Orlando, with additional extensions planned for Disney World and Tampa. Our model has already proven successful in other markets where routes are too far to drive but too short to fly, where capture rates of the travel market average 20% and profit margins 50%. The second facet of our business model is the development of transit-oriented real estate. With the increasing urbanization of the US, people are seeking transit-oriented developments where they can live, work, play, and have access to great transportation. Our first planned expansion outside of Florida is Southern California to Las Vegas, a market which, like Florida, is a huge and congested route with 90 million visitors, 15 million residents, and over 50 million trips per year. Here we'll cut travel time from nearly 3 hours to just 90 minutes, all for less than the cost of gas and parking. Brightline, which will soon be known as Virgin Trains USA, is positioned as the most comfortable, reliable, fastest, cheapest, productive, and safest way to get people between highly populated cities that have congested corridors. We're positioned to transform regions and create connectivity between cities that was previously thought impossible.
So thank you. We're super excited about the future, especially here in South Florida. But going from what you see here, our Orlando extension will be online in 2022. We'll directly link with the Orlando airport, so it'll take you about 3 hours to go from Miami straight to the Orlando airport. It's a tremendous way to travel. It's first class all the way. And what we're seeing is a significant trend towards people taking this transportation. In our first year of ridership, we had more riders than the entire Excella combined in their first year of ridership. If you're not familiar with Excella, that's Amtrak's routes between New York, Washington, D.C., Boston, and Philadelphia. And we spent half of our first year just servicing West Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale. We'll open new stations in Boca Raton, Aventura, and Port Miami at this time next year, which we see as a tremendous benefit, not only to what we do, but also what the real estate professionals do. I would say the top 3 groups of riders that we see on the business side are real estate professionals, lawyers, and entrepreneurs who already recognize a value of their time or see a unique opportunity to expand their business into a new market. Here's one of the other reasons that I think, we're very bullish on what we're trying to accomplish. Florida's growing by about 1,000 people every single day. You have the Everglades to the west, the ocean to the east. There's no way for anybody to get around. You got 20 million residents. Our corridor, by the time we get to Orlando, will basically serve 50% of the state's population. Other stations planned beyond West Palm Beach, we're looking in the Treasure Coast, the Space Coast, and then beyond to Tampa. No question we need it. Everybody's looking for alternative forms of transportation, but when you look at the peak travel times in South Florida, the average highway speed on 95 in the areas that we live is 34 miles per hour. 34. You cannot get anything done at that time. And what I see today, because I take the train every single morning, and I haven't had a car in 4 years, well before this, is I see people working constantly. And for business professionals, people who own their own business or own their own time, those are the people who see the value more and more from the train service than almost anybody, because they recognize 30 minutes on a train ride to respond to emails or to conduct a phone call is a critical amount of time to do business. If you look at the stations, what we have done is we've centered these in core downtowns. So Tri-Rail, which many people may be familiar with, is the public transportation system. On average, they're 3 miles west. We operate in downtown Miami, downtown Fort Lauderdale, and downtown West Palm Beach. We have 3 stops. You can get between those 70 miles in about 55 minutes. And we're close to everything, right? So you guys being real estate professionals would know it's all about location. We recognize that as well for residents and folks who are looking to expand their business or expand their backyard. From a leisure standpoint, our station in Miami is close to museums, performing arts centers, Bayfront, American Airlines Arena. And just in this station, and I'll show you a picture here in a couple minutes, we developed 2 office towers, one on top of the train station and one right next door, and 2 apartment residential complexes which will come online at the end of this year and the beginning of next, which will give us a total of 800 units directly on top of our train station. So if you're looking for a unique place to live and a unique place to get you out of Miami, there's not going to be any better opportunity than that. We also have 130,000 square foot of retail in our Miami office, or Miami station, and it's fully integrated with first and last mile solutions, Lyft, ride share, scooters, micromobility, bike shares, bus and shuttle systems. We've worked with the city of Miami and the county to make sure that buses are timed appropriately. So you name it, you can get basically anywhere. And I think the most important piece in Miami is that we connect directly to Metro Rail into our station and the Miami People Mover, which gets you around the downtown district of Miami and Brickell. Same thing in Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach, in the heart of downtown, near the performing arts centers, near the water, near the river, depending on where you are. It's a perfect place to be and a perfect place to locate, whether you're a business or somebody looking to commute and for a simpler way to commute. We've seen a number of examples of businesses building a new headquarters right next to one of our stations. Moss Construction, one of the biggest construction companies in all of South Florida and now the country, are moving a new headquarters right next to the station in West Palm Beach. In West Palm Beach, City Place is investing hundreds of millions of dollars to improve that facility, which is essentially connected to our West Palm station. So the amount of development that our projects have spurred, and we can't take responsibility for it, but we've certainly seen since we announced our project in 2014, is pretty incredible. I thought I had a couple more slides there, but one thing I will tell you is on the residential side, in Miami specifically, since we started our project in South Florida, over 20 new projects have been developed around our station in downtown Miami. 20. In Overtown, where our headquarters is, we're putting the first Publix in downtown Miami in that area since 1992. You're seeing over 2,500 new residential units, over 2,000 hotel units. The Miami World Center, which is approximately 25 acres, is right next door to our station. So a tremendous amount of development and interest in being next to transportation projects is what we're seeing the most on the real estate side. Now, one of the things that they asked me to talk about also was just the Virgin brand in general. So now that we're part of the Virgin brand, which is now starting to have a small headquarters in Miami, there's Virgin Cruise Line, which is Virgin Voyages, which will launch in April. Virgin Hotels is also based in Miami. They just announced a Brickell location. Virgin Trains, which is us, and then you have Virgin Holidays, which operates mostly out of Orlando and Miami, and then Virgin Atlantic, which flies out of Orlando and Miami. So essentially, you could fly anywhere internationally, come in here to this, to this region, and never have to do anything except use a Virgin brand. And we know there's 97% awareness of the Virgin brand in both Canada and Europe. And there's 95% awareness in the United States. So we think it's a tremendous brand to build our transportation product and certainly to cross-market with the other things that we see. So that's a little bit about us. I don't know if there's any questions from the group or anything I could help answer, but I'd be happy to. Good question. So do we, can we accommodate special events with arts, entertainment? We do that today, and we probably need to do a better job of it. One of the things I will say is our number one partner is the Miami Heat. Just to give you an example, we created a train called the Buzzer Beater, so you never had to miss any action of the Miami Heat game. One of the things that we learned in this process was that the Miami Heat had more close games that went down to the last 30 seconds than any other team in the NBA. So we created this buzzer beater. So we have a train that leaves 30 minutes after the buzzer, no matter what the score is, no matter what night it is, it's 100% guaranteed. And then the regular train schedule in addition to that. When Hamilton was at the Fort Lauderdale Performing Arts Center, we partnered with them to rearrange our train schedule in order to accommodate folks that were coming up from Miami and West Palm Beach. We'd like to do more of it. And certainly one of the things that we've come to realize is that sometimes our trains don't run late enough. If people want to go to West Palm Beach and have dinner, or they want to go to a Hamilton show, and that show gets out at 11:30 or 12, we didn't have trains that would accommodate that. So for big enough events, we do that all the time. Certainly with American Airlines Arena, Performing Arts Centers, we try to do that as often as we can, and those are great partners of ours. Go ahead. Connection from Orlando to Tampa, what's the timeline? We're in negotiations right now with Disney, Central Florida Expressway, and the Florida Department of Transportation. I would tell you that I could probably answer that question in January, but I can't answer that today. Candidly, our focus has been on getting Orlando up and running by 2022. It's not going to be a simultaneous build, so it's going to be at points, beyond 2022 to get to Tampa for sure. Anybody else? I could do this all day. I could just sit up here answering questions. If not, go ahead, one more here. Yeah, we take pets. I see pets all the time on the train. So yeah, we're extremely pet friendly. We're also kid friendly. Kids ride free. Right now, I believe pets ride, maybe it's like a $5 charge. And we have terms and conditions. I mean, you can't have horses and ostriches, but you can have basically anything else other than that. They don't. No. So I think they have to be less than 100 pounds, if I know that off the top of my head. And then we have pet areas in all of our stations. So, anybody else? if you haven't ridden the train, I would invite you to ride the train. You know, it's a tremendous experience, and I hope to see you guys take the train and certainly expand your business to other markets. So go ahead. So what you do is you download the app or you go to our station. Everything is hospitality based. So when you walk in, so just so you know, like if you haven't been to our stations, take everything that you've ever thought about with a train ride and we flip it on its head. So most trains are gray, dreary, the stations smell terrible. That's not how we operate. We walk in, it's bright. We have a signature scent. It's much more like a 5-star hotel than it is a regular train station. All of our staff, from our security to our train attendants, they're all trained no different than you would train staff at the Biltmore Hotel. They're there to help you. The second you walk in, they'll greet you. If you've never been there before, they'll walk you to the kiosk, help you to get a ticket, or download the app. To get from Miami to West Palm Beach, it's as little as $15, and it takes 55 to 60 minutes. And so the station is 6 minutes away from American Airlines Arena, right in the heart of Overtown. It's 161 Northwest 6th Avenue. So Aventura was just approved by the Miami-Dade County Commission. That will be open at this time next year. Boca Raton, which should be approved by November 26th, will be open by this time next year. In Port Miami, which we see as a huge opportunity, will be open at this time next year. There's 6 million passengers who cruise out of Port Miami every year. A third of those drive from points north of Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. We are building a hospitality play with that. You'll come into our station, you'll check your bags into our station, you'll arrive directly at Port Miami to your ship. Your bags, all of your belongings will end up directly into your stateroom. So your vacation can essentially begin an hour to 90 minutes early. Just to Port Miami. But yes, so we'll be stationed on the northeast part of the port, and then we'll have transportation to the rest of the cruise ships, no matter who you're cruising with. So, all right guys, I really appreciate your time. Have a great afternoon. Thank you.